Live free or die!
Hello everyone, my name is Lydia and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, how's it going? I hope that you're having a fabulous week. If you're new to this channel, I make videos all about the New England region of the United States, which is the northeasternmost region of the United States. It consists of 6 states: Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. If you are returning, I ask that you take a quick look at my other videos, which I will have linked in either the description or above somewhere in the video, but make sure to check out my other videos that I have on New England before moving on to this video. Today's topic is going to be on the Big E, or the Eastern States Exposition. Now, what is the Big E? It's basically a giant fair that represents all 6 New England states. You might have heard of county fairs and other state fairs. Like, I know, for example, certain states have their own fair that represents the entire state. For example, New York State has an entire fair devoted to the state. Some fairs have, some states have that, depending on maybe the size of the state and whether or not they have the funds to make that available. I know that for New England, the individual states don't have their own individual state fairs. The Big E is the one fair that represents all 6 of them. New England still has county fairs though, like depending on what state you're in and what county you're in, different counties will have their own fairs throughout the summer usually. But the Big E typically runs mid-September to the end of September. It's usually a 3-week long fair. And in today's video, I'm going to give you a very brief history of the Big E, as well as my experience going to the Big E. I went this year and I went last year. So I'm going to compare the 2 experiences for you. And I'm going to give you a couple of highlights for the fair in case you happen to find yourself in New England, or if you happen to live in New England and you're watching this video and you're like, oh my God, I've never been to the Big E before, then I would stay till the end and hear what I have to say. I know I've only been there twice, but I've learned a lot in those 2 times of going, and I'm very happy to share that information with you. So without further ado, let's get started. Grab a drink. I have some coffee here. Tasty. Grab a coffee, grab tea, grab whatever suits your fancy, and let's chat. So, a little bit of history on the Big E. So the Big E, otherwise known as the Eastern States Exposition, was founded in 1916, and its original mission was to be a 4-H fair. And if you've never heard of 4-H, 4-H is basically a program that promotes farming and agriculture, and it teaches the public about farm animals, about different methods of agriculture, different ways to harvest specific crops, things like that. It's all, focused on farming and trying to teach the public about farming and agriculture. And that's how the Big E started. It started off as a way to teach the youth about farming and agriculture. Specifically at this time, in the early 1900s, you have a lot better farming technology. You have better tractors, you have better tools than you did in the prior century. So this fair was sort of an opportunity to teach people in the eastern part of the country about farming. And this fair actually had representation from other states as well at the beginning. New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware were represented at the Big E at its beginning. Now, fast forward to about the 1950s, the fair started to take on a different image, and it started to promote just the 6 New England states and became known as the Big E. And to this day, the fair has now amassed itself into something more than just the typical 4-H show. They still have the horses and the farm area. They still have cows and pigs and goats and sheep and things like that. But it's now a typical fair that you would see anywhere around the country. They have rides, they have carnival games, they have cool prizes, they have all of the food you would expect at a fair: popcorn, cotton candy, ice cream, funnel cakes, fried dough, fried Oreos, all that stuff, right? So you can get all of that and more at the Big E. The Big E also has something that you're never going to see at any other fair in the country, because it's very specific to New England. All 6 New England states have representation. They all have what we would call a state house at the Big E. So at the Big E, they all have a house that has their state name on it. It has their state flag. And inside each of the state houses, there's a bunch of vendors there. And they're selling wares and souvenirs as well as food from that specific state. So for example, if you go to the main state house at the Big E, they're going to have lobster rolls there, as well as maple flavored iced coffee, which I will highly recommend. It's very, very good. I got that at the main house this year. At the Vermont house, they have apple cider slushies and Ben & Jerry's, typical staples of Vermont. Also, if you go to the Rhode Island State House, you're going to see a lot of clams and a lot of seafood there because Rhode Island has a big seafaring industry. Massachusetts, you're going to see Boston cream donuts, whoopie pies, also some seafood, right? So each specific house is specific to that state. So not only can you get food there, but you can also buy souvenirs that are specific to that state. And there's a lot of advertising for tourism for that state. Like you walk right into the state house and then there's a bunch of brochures and they'll usually advertise several famous areas of the state. Like for example, the New Hampshire State House, there's a ton of brochures on Mount Washington, which is in the White Mountain region of New Hampshire. That's just one example, but each of the state houses are like that. They all have different vendors selling you different things about that state. So it is super, super cool in that respect. Now, so that's pretty much what the Big E is. Now, I am then going to explain to you my experience going there last year versus this year. So I actually had no idea that the Big E existed. I'm going to turn on the light there so it's a little brighter. Okay. I had no idea that the Big E existed till last year. I had gone to the New York State Fair in 2023. And in 2024, I was thinking, I still live in New York. I still lived in New York at that time. And I was thinking, I don't want to go back to the New York State Fair. I want to try something else. So I did some research and I was thinking, well, does New England have a state fair? So I did some research and I found the Big E. And I was like, you know what? I am going to go to the Big E in 2024. Now, at the time, it was a 4-hour drive from where I lived last year. So I knew it would be a long drive, and I believe the gates opened at like 8 or 9 in the morning, so I had to leave my home in upstate New York at 4 in the morning just to get there at opening time. So that was definitely something I didn't really like, because who wants to get up at 4 in the morning to go to the Big E? I mean, I did it because I really, really wanted to go. Like, my desire to go was greater than my dislike for knowing I had to wake up so super early. But I did it anyway. I got there perfectly safe, perfectly fine. So I got there and they take your picture as you walk in. So before I left, I bought that picture and I still have it in my house. And now it's a symbolic memory of when I first went to the Big E. So I have that picture to remind myself of my first trip. Yeah, my first time going, I didn't really know too much about it. Like, I knew that they had the state houses, so I first got there and I asked someone immediately where to find the state houses. So I went there and I went into all of them. I got pictures at all of them. I didn't buy, things from each one. Like, I think my first year I bought a Maine lobster roll. I bought an apple cider slushie from Vermont. I can't remember if I bought anything else, but I remembered those two specific things I bought. So I did that at least. Something else I noticed when I first arrived my first time was that the lines for the state houses get really, really long. Like, I'm talking like long queues of people just waiting to get in. And there's not a lot of space in the state house. Like, it's kind of just a nice little circle within the house and all the vendors are kind of all like spaced out. And basically people are slowly let in and are kind of moving around in a circle. So eventually you get stuck in crowds and that definitely doesn't get fun. It also depends on the day that you go. Like, both times I went on a Saturday, and I will say Saturdays are very, very busy. No surprise, right? Like, a lot of people, I should say, are off on Saturdays. The kids are not in school, so they're going to be at the Big E. But Saturdays are really the only day that work for me. So I just ended up getting stuck going on days that had a lot of people, but that's kind of to be expected. So I did that. And I bought a ton of merch my first year. I bought a hat, I bought 2 shirts, and I bought a magnet for my fridge. I remember that. I went to a nice little tent that was selling Big E merch. So that was really cool that they had that. I sat for, I don't, wasn't like a magician, but it was like a performer. He was performing on like an open area, an open field. They have this part of the Big E where they have like a replica village of like a New England town that came out of like the 1800s. And then they had like a little gazebo where there was someone performing like a show. So I sat for that. I walked around the entirety of the fair more than once because the fair's not super big. I didn't ride any rides because I was alone the first year. So I didn't have anyone to hold my stuff. So I just walked with my stuff. I watched the horse show. I got to see the farm animals. And then, and then after I left, I got there, I think, right as the gates opened, like 8 to 9 in the morning, and I left at 3 p.m. So I stayed a pretty good amount of the time. Now, I was not going to drive all the way back to New York on another 4-hour drive. So I had to book a hotel, which of course they're going to, jack up the prices because they know that people are coming in from out of state and out of town to stay and go to the Big E. So I think I ended up paying like $300 for that hotel for that night. It was a lot of money, but I paid it anyway because I did not want to put up with driving 4 hours back to New York. So I went to my hotel, which was in West Springfield, and I got there. One of my good friends recommended a restaurant in Northampton, which Northampton's not super far from West Springfield. It was probably like 20 minutes away. So I went to the restaurant, and if you live or if you've been to Northampton before, you've probably heard of this restaurant. It's called Fitzwilly's. So I went there and I ordered like a spaghetti chicken bowl, and it was so good. Honestly, next time I go back to Northampton, if I went back to that restaurant, that's what I would order again. It was really, really good. So I went there for dinner, and then I happened to be there when there was some kind of art festival going on, so it was hard to find parking. I was able to find a parking spot in one lone parking lot, so I got very lucky there. So I was able to do that, and then I went back to the hotel, and I just stayed there the rest of the night, and then I woke up really early in the morning, maybe like 6 in the morning, and then I was on the way back to New York that Sunday. It was a really fun, rewarding experience, but I knew that okay, next year is definitely going to be better because I already had it in my mind. I'm going to be living in New England next year. I'm manifesting that. I'm making that dream into a reality, and it ended up happening. As you know, if you've seen my previous videos, I moved to New England a few months ago. So as soon as I got here over the summer, my first plan was like, okay, how is the Big E going to look now that I'm here permanently? So I will say, actually, maybe I'm not going to say how far the Big E is from me because that might give away my location. But let's just say it's not 4 hours away like it was last year. So it's a much closer drive than 4 hours. So we will just leave it at that. So automatically, compared to last year, it was not a hassle getting here. It was much quicker. We had to sit in a little bit of traffic getting into the entrance, but we were able to do that. I went with my mom this year, so it was more fun going with someone. I got to show her the state houses. I actually bought more from the state houses this year. Like I got a lobster roll from the Massachusetts house. I got a maple iced coffee from the Maine house. I got Ben & Jerry's and an apple cider slushie from the Vermont house. And then the New Hampshire house was selling a sweet corn on the cob. So I got corn from the New Hampshire house. And my goal was to try to buy things from multiple state houses, which I did. I didn't buy any merch this year because I already got merch the year before. So of course I'm there in my good old Big E hat. I wore my hat the day that I went. And I also wore my shirt, one of my shirts that I got the year before. This year I also went on a Saturday. That's just how it ended up working out. And something else I forgot to mention is that New England has, I should say the Big E has different days celebrating each of the New England states. Like each state gets a specific day. Now there's 3 weeks that this Big E goes on for, and there's only 6 New England states, and the different days that are given to each of them are sort of sprinkled throughout the 3-week period. So what I've noticed is that Maine's Day happens to always be the first Saturday of the fair. And those are the 2 days I've gone to the Big E. I've gone on Maine's Day twice. I've gone the first year and then this year. So basically what happens is on that state's day, they have a whole bunch of booths outside of that state house. They have like the troopers there, and like there's a whole bunch of stuff that they're selling to you from that state. And it gives them a little more recognition. So I got to go on Maine's Day twice. I do know that there are some state days during the week, which would be a little hard for me to go to since I have a Monday through Friday job. I mean, I was speaking to my mom about this. I'm like, well, hypothetically, I could technically take a day off and go. Like, I'm not going to get fired from my job, but it really wouldn't be the best decision to make. Because if my job found out, I played hooky and went to that event, I might be in a little bit of trouble, so might not be wise to do that. So I'm okay just going on weekends. I mean, they do another state day on another Saturday during the 3-week period. I believe the Vermont State Day is the second Saturday of the cycle. So next year, my plan is to go on that Saturday, experience a different state day. And I will definitely update you next year and let you know how that is compared to the first 2 Saturdays that I've gone. So it's not a big deal. But yeah, we walked around a lot this year. We saw a horse show. We saw racing pigs. This year, which I did not see last year. We walked around that like New England Village a little bit that they had set up. We got to see somebody blowing glass, which was really cool because I didn't see that last year. Yeah, so there was a couple of differences, but it felt better the second time around because I didn't have to stay at a hotel because I lived close enough, let's just say, where I didn't have to stay at a hotel and then go back to my house the next day. So it was a lot better that way. It was a quicker drive, and I knew my way around this time. I knew what to expect. So when we got there, my mom and I literally got in line for the Vermont House. We were the first people in line because I told her, I was like, Mom, you're not going to believe me, but once we're in line, we'll sit here for 5-10 minutes. You look behind you, and then you're going to see a whole bunch of people there. And she did. And I'm like, I said, what I tell you? So, no, but my mom had a good time. She wouldn't go to the Big E every year like me. Like, I plan to go every single year because it's such a cool fair and it's the closest thing I will get to like a New England state fair. There are other like county fairs I plan to go to as well that I got to try this year. And I'll probably make separate videos about those county fairs in comparison to the Big E. But yeah, that was my overall experience. I will say before I end this video, I can't not talk about the Maine potatoes. If you go on the New England Reddit and look up anything to do with the Big E, I guarantee there will be tons of comments on the Maine potatoes. Now, before we're going to the Big E, I had no idea that Maine was known for potatoes. Like, Maine is actually considered the Idaho of the Northeast. Maine makes the most potatoes out of all the New England states, which I didn't know that until I went to the Big E last year. And there's a line for Maine potatoes, and you can get a whole bunch of toppings on it, like sour cream and cheese and all that. Last year and this year, there's always like notoriously a line for the Maine potatoes. Like, I think every time my mom and I walked past the area where the line was, there was always a line of people trying to get the potatoes. And we were joking like, oh, like maybe we should wait in line. I'm like, are the potatoes really that good? I can't say. I didn't get them this year or last year because to be honest, I did not want to wait in that line. But next year, I think I'm going to make myself wait and try a Maine potato and give you my honest review about it. It's probably just like any other potato. I don't know. But you can let me know in the comments if you've ever had a Maine potato and if it's actually worth the hype. I can't say. I've never had a Maine potato before, but I did want to mention that before ending this video because I feel like that was really important to mention. Other than that, I don't really think there's anything else to mention here. But I would highly recommend the Big E. I think there's a lot more to do. There's a lot more to offer since it represents 6 different states. There's a lot of food. There's a lot of merchandise. There's just a lot to do for such a fair that, like, it feels small, but when you're there, it feels big. It's hard to explain. Like, you'd have to physically be there to know what I'm talking about. Like, it feels big when you're there. Like, there's very overwhelming. There's a lot of places to like shop and look at and lots of food to buy. But at the same time, it's like very small compared to other state fairs. Like the New York State Fair, I guarantee was like twice as big, if not bigger than that. But I thoroughly enjoy the Big E. I'm definitely going to continue to go every year as a tradition. And that is my video to you on the Big E. If you have any questions about the Big E, feel free to leave a comment below and I will happily answer your question to the best of my ability. If you have any recommendations on what I should try or what I should do next year when I go to the Big E, please also let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content revolving around New England. And because my work schedule is very kind of like up in the air, like some days are busier than others, it's best to hit the notification bell so you are notified immediately when I post another video. So without further ado, I am going to be signing off. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I will see you all in the next video. In the next video, I'm not 100% sure what it's going to be on. It's going to either be on one of the New England towns I visited, one of the haunted attractions I've visited, or something totally different. I'll have to think about it. But anyway, I hope you all have a great rest of your night, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!